this bill that you're not talking about tonight. Let's get started. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. Before I unveil the first panelist, set of panelists on the program, let me allow you to give us what is on the minds of Nigerians. I wanted us to have this short conversation before I bring on the panelists. First and foremost, what do you think is most critical that people are not talking about, aside the issue of the direct primaries? Because I know that will generate a lot of conversations tonight.
One very critical aspect of the Electoral Bill 2021 is that unlike what we used to have, if it's passed into law, there will be need for a list of candidates to be sent to INEC 180 days before the election.
What do we have before now?
Before now, it's about 90 days to the election time. But if it's 180 days by this new electoral bill, it means that by August of this year, July, August, the list should get to INEC. And that means that if it's not already signed into law now, that means we have limited time. And most importantly also, campaigns used to start 90 days before election in the current electoral act. But with this Electoral Bill 2021, it's going to start 150 days before the general election. There are lots of other factors within the Electoral Bill 2021 that we need to internalize. And generally, delaying the passage of Electoral Bill, it's not good for Nigeria's democracy. Right. Nigeria's democracy is critical to Africa and to the world, and we must all work hard to ensure that we do the needful and in time. Thank you.
Are we making a mole out of all of this? Because someone will ask, if this is not passed, is anything wrong with our elections? In the process of, the way and manner we conduct our elections, Cynthia?
Well, I think it's important we know that we can't keep doing the same thing the same way and expect a different outcome. And the idea for these electoral reform process is to give us a new law that captures provisions that would ensure our processes are more credible and that there is electoral integrity in Nigeria. And I think what is important is the fact that we've reduced this conversation to just issues around direct and indirect primaries. But there's a lot more. So if you think about early funding for elections, this current proposed bill provides for funding for elections to go to the Electoral Commission at least a year to the election. Now, why is that important? If you think about our conduct of elections, previous elections, logistics, management, in fact, the postponement of elections that we had in 2019, 2015, even 2011, were attributed to issues around elections, operations, and logistics and management. So when INEC receives the funds early, it gives INEC better time to plan. In 2019 elections, the funds for elections were released barely by January of the year of the elections, barely weeks to the elections. Now, how would we expect to conduct elections? So, this proposed bill provides for the funds for elections to go to INEC early. Another important conversation, Sheon, I think we need to talk about is the fact that this proposal gives INEC the power to review elections results if it is declared under duress or in breach of the electoral laws and legal framework. Imagine what happened in the previous elections when a returning officer says, I'm declaring this result under duress, but these results were upheld by court. It would also reduce the way cases go to court, because what would happen is when returning officers either flout the laws or are forced to declare results, INEC would have a timeline to review these results and ensure that it is announced in line with the Electoral Act. And I think that is what is important, that is beyond direct and indirect primaries. There are other important provisions that this electoral bill proposes.
So if the bill is not passed and we conduct the next election in this same manner, what is your biggest fear?
Two major fears for me. First, citizens who don't have confidence in the process. Why? A lot of citizens, especially young Nigerians, have made a demand for a new law. If it doesn't pass, it passes the wrong message to Nigerians that our government, the President and National Assembly, do not care about electoral process. So it would affect confidence in the process. Second, it would have a direct impact on the quality of elections, because we have innovations that would promote credibility of the process and inspire confidence in the process and ensure that electoral fraud and malpractices are reduced. So those are two important points for me.
Great. I'm coming to yourself and Ms. Wijabi in just in a moment. Mr. Jake, you are one person that has fought and spoken up about the rights of people living with disability. Are those taken care of, or are those concerns taken care of in this the new bill that is not yet passed?
Thank you, Shemu. Let me start with a personal story. I never voted until I was 58, and today I'm 61. So you see, for 58 years, I've been disenfranchised, and that's because the provision in the previous Electoral Act says to INEC may reasonably accommodate us. This is one bill that have further given impetus to our agitation, which says INEC shall. It means a lot. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that it has legal implication. And that is why for us, getting this bill signed will give further hope to the likes of my colleagues who are here, David Anyele, Grace, my friend Lois, and several others, Chris. Many of them have left whatever they are doing, and they are here in the hall to say to the president of our country that you have the only opportunity to write your name on a gold. This is one bill that will serve the need of persons with the disability community and give us hope that we too can participate in the electoral process. But not only that, that we too can be elected one day. I live, and my dream is to see a person with disability become the president of this country, the vice president of this country, the senator, the governor, the House of Rep. Who says we can? It's only opportunities like this and processes like this can say that we cannot. But we stand tonight to say we can and we will.
The nation apologizes to you and your friends for the inability to vote in our election.
We take the apology, but we want action.
It will happen. It will happen. And that's the reason why we are here tonight. I'll get your final take because what we are doing is we're warming the environment. The room is getting warm, and it's going to get to a point where this place is going to be heated. We have some of the brightest people that we can find in this country in this room tonight, and we're saying one thing, that the electoral bill needs to be looked into. For you tonight, what is critical? What do you think should be said tonight?
The most critical thing is that that bill should become a law. The only issue of direct and indirect primaries is not the only action in that bill. There are several others, so it should be passed immediately. And one thing is that if laws are not passed and given enough time for internalization, it brings about implementation issues, which would of course affect the ENB, the Independent National Electoral Commission, in delivering on its mandate. Given electoral law, the legal framework for elections, few days, few months to election, is not an effective thing to do. So we should learn our lessons by taking action now and also guarding against delaying passage of electoral bill in the future.
Cynthia, you and your friends and colleagues, you've called us into this room today. It's early in the year. Why are you not allowing us to go about our businesses and just focus on our work? And you brought us early in this year. What's your focus? What is your agenda?
Well, our agenda is to ensure that our citizens will keep the demand on, that we need the electoral bill passed into law now. And why we want it to be passed now is because the day is almost over, so barely 398 days to the elections. So we are running out of time. We need this bill passed, but beyond that, we also need the National Assembly to work with the executive to clean up the bill. We don't want excuses like we had in 2018. So whatever needs to be done, drafting-wise, should be concluded, and we need this bill transmitted to the president for assent again. And at the end of it all, Nigerians are watching, and the idea for this is elections is beyond just the process. It's about the people, and the people are those who determine what democracy ought to be like. And Nigerians are saying we need our electoral process to work for us so that we can take ownership of this process, because Nigeria's democracy is for Nigeria, and our democracy must work. But it to the electoral process, and we need this bill passed into law.
Today we go down in history as one day that Nigerians came together, representative of different tribes, ethnic, and every shape and form of professions have come into this room. 16th of January. How will it be historical for you, Mr. Jake?
Well, every year and every first month of the year, people come together to make resolutions. Today, we are coming together to make a resolution that, Mr. President, you have an opportunity to prove what you said when you took the oath of office. You said you are the president of the people. This is the time to put action to the words and the promise that you made. Remember, we elected you, and we are asking you to do what the people want, not what the political class want. Shenwu, we have made the resolution today that we are calling on the executive arm and the legislative arm to please make sure that the needful is done, and this first time inclusive bill is signed, so that my people will indeed find hope in a process like this. This is one opportunity for everyone who is in this hall, who is watching tonight, to say to yourself that the day you were born, you cried. Everyone around you rejoiced. We must live our lives so well that the day we die, we will rejoice, and everyone around us will cry.
Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies.